This is an overview of the FinLocker financial fitness and homeownership experience. We are looking today at the B2B2C fully customizable, fully white labeled version of this FinLocker financial fitness and homeownership app. Today, we're looking at the Key Steps branded version, but this is how we brand the web experience for our lender client. We also, when we deploy the product, it is also deployed as a native mobile app where we publish our technology to the enterprise, to the lender, to our clients' accounts on both Apple and Google Play. So it becomes a native mobile app in addition to this web experience. The web experience is a web-enabled, web responsive, if you will, mobile responsive experience for the user. The platform is architected under what we call a persona-based architecture. And so as I open up this little pop-up, you'll see 5 personas. We've defaulted to not looking, which is our past client kind of servicing use case persona. But we have just getting started, which is an early journey first-time homebuyer, typically someone that's 6, 12, 18 plus months from being ready to purchase their first home. Getting ready is someone that's within 90 days of being ready to buy and apply. A lot of lenders use our technology as a way to stay sticky with their pre-qual, pre-approval pipeline. Overcoming challenges is just what it sounds like. Think of it as a turn down use case. Instead of saying, no, it's not now, here's an app, here's a set of tools that are going to help you get to a place where you become approvable. And finally, ready. Ready is just what it sounds like, ready now. We have several of our clients and loan officers specifically who have built a presence on social media. They do content, home buying, education content on social with a call to action, download our free XYZ app. And what we see typically in those use cases with those social media influencer loan officers is 10 to 15% of the consumers that are downloading the app from their social content are identifying themselves as ready now, ready to purchase, ready to buy, ready to refi. So these are the 5 current personas. As we go through this demo, I want you to also think about the fact that because we've architected the platform as a persona-based structure, we can add an infinite number of personas. So there could be 5 or 50 more personas that we could customize the experience for the user based on that specific persona. In addition to the persona, so when the user first identifies themselves under this persona, the app asks a series of questions to the user specifically about their homeownership journey. This is how we get to that persona. So describe which best suits your homeownership journey. So not currently looking, I already bought a home, I want to make the most of the home I have. So that's our persona. What are your goals? My goals are to improve my finances, learn about the right mortgage, maybe become a savvy homeowner, grow my household wealth. These are all learnings that the app is gathering on this consumer. The next question is going to ask around their goals and objectives. Let me just refresh the screen here real fast for us. Sorry about that. So we're not looking. We've got be a savvy homeowner and how best can we help you? So I want to monitor my homeownership wealth, or I could say, tell me when it's time to make the next step. So based on what the user wants help with in the app, this is how, again, we're going to take that information and craft a very specific journey and experience for that user. When someone says that they want to, that they already own a home, that they're a current homeowner, they're not looking, we default them right to this screen where they can add their property address. I already have one added in here, and you can see it here. We have this property in New Orleans, the consumer connected. You can see we bring in an AVM, a property value. This property value comes from our integration with the Home Genius real estate platform. This value updates every 30 days. And once a user connects a property, the app, recognizing that the property's been connected, asks another question. And the question is, do you have a mortgage or any mortgages on this property? And if they say yes, we then prompt them to connect directly to that mortgage servicing account. And I'm going to show you in a different widget how consumers are prompted to connect to their financial accounts. A mortgage account is an example of one type of financial account that can be connected. When I go to that widget, I'll go into more detail there. In the case of our enterprise client being, a large mortgage servicer, we can also integrate directly to the servicing platform through single sign-on, bring this data right in once the consumer has created their account inside of the FinLocker technology. So once they've connected that mortgage, you can see we're bringing in a current balance. So if a payment posted yesterday, that balance would be updated today. Our app retrieves all the transactional data every evening from linked accounts in the app. And that makes our estimated equity presentation, we believe, one of the more accurate and dynamic views of available equity. We're not doing a public records lookup of a mortgage deed of trust and then doing a reverse amortization to get to an expected balance. We're actually connecting to the underlying connected loan, mortgage, or mortgages to this property. And we also support multiple properties. So for any of your customers that own multiple properties, they can link and track those. They don't have to necessarily be serviced by the same servicer. They could go and connect another loan servicing account to the app. We support up to 20 properties. Sorry about that. My mouse is moving all over. So users can, have multiple properties, investments, second homes, vacation homes, et cetera. And then the net value of those properties rolls to our financial widget. I'm going to come back to this widget in a moment, but you can see here, this is the sum of those 4 connected properties in terms of value. And only one property, I've only linked one mortgage in the app to a property. But if there was mortgages on each of those properties, the aggregate rolled up balance of the outstanding mortgages would be reflected here, which then obviously the net becomes part of the net worth, which includes any cash and or investment accounts that we see connected in the app, as well as any outstanding balances on liability accounts, credit cards, auto payments, things of that sort. Okay, so let's go back to the dashboard real quick, and I'm going to quickly show you the navigation of this main dashboard for the user. So it is a series of widgets. We'll come back up here in a moment, but while I'm here, let me show you real quickly one of our beta newest features, which is where we allow a consumer to connect securely and directly to their payroll data. And we do this by prompting the user to link to their employer. So let's just say I work for Platformtronic, and there's my company. I would log into my employer portal, employee portal, if you will, at Platformtronic. Since I've already done that, I'll show you what that looks like here. I'm going to log in, and then here's what we see. Here's Chris. He's the borrower. He's the user of the app. He's a helpline agent. He started in October of 2022. He gets paid weekly. His year-to-date income would show here, any breakdown of commissions, bonus, overtime. This app is going to update every time Chris gets paid. We're going to update with the latest pay information. And then behind this data on this widget is all of Chris's pay stubs for the last 12 months are stored in the locker in the app. And so as Chris is going through his mortgage readiness journey, whether he's a first-time home buyer or an existing servicing borrower who just wants to be in the best position to take advantage of a refinance, so he's got all of his ducks in a row, so to speak, all the documentation, those pay stubs would be in the app ready to be shared, and then the data as well. So I wanted to show you that because what we're going to really talk about in this experience is this concept of a evergreen, always on, connected consumer verified on 4 dimensions. Cash, how much do I have saved in linked bank accounts in the app? Credit, not only credit score, but what's my credit look like? What's the details on my credit? Income and employment, which I just showed you. And then finally, the last item that's a derivative of all of that is a calculated debt to income ratio. And then I should say that the 4th or 5th always connected data point is that property value when a consumer already owns a home and they've linked that property. So this concept that we want you to think about is this always on, evergreen, connected consumer to direct source, consumer opt-in, consumer permission data, assets, income, employment, credit, and then a calculated DTI off of that. We do all of this not in the context of a pre-approval, not in the context of a pre-qualification. We do all this in the context of educate, prepare, engage, and convert. So the more consumers are using direct source real data in their preparation, in their journey towards readiness, the more confident, the better prepared, the more certain their outcome will be. In this case, the outcome would be either the purchase of a new home, maybe their first home, or being in the best position to take advantage of dips in the market, dips in the rates, to refinance when those opportunities occur. Okay, so let's do a quick nav of the dashboard. Series of widgets. We'll come back to this main widget here, what we call the mortgage readiness and payment planning tool. This is really running on top of all those data points I just described, including consumer contributed data. So things they tell us about themselves, like their goals, objectives, et cetera. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But the consumer has access on this dashboard to several personal finance tools. So the first being credit. Consumers are prompted to connect to their credit. It's a single soft pull. It's a consumer credit score, credit report. You see here we have the Vantage score. Today we present to the consumer the Vantage 3.0. Very soon on our roadmap, we'll be updating to the 4.0. And so behind this widget, the consumer will get their credit score. It updates every 7 days. You can see here the next update is due in 1 day, tomorrow. So the score will be updated, which is an engagement notification, right? So every time data changes in the app that's relevant to the consumer's journey, that consumer will get a push notification if they're using the mobile app, and or an email notification. And just so you're aware, all those communications are not coming from FinLocker, the company, or FinLocker, the brand. They're coming from this branded instance, in this case, Key Steps. It could be ABC Mortgage. And so the communications are all coming from the enterprise client of FinLocker. And they can also be coming from your email domain as well. In addition to the credit score, the user has visibility into their full credit report. So they can click in here, see their full credit report. We visualize all the credit data, which we get from TransUnion, in these little tiles. And behind each of these tiles is the visualization. So you've got your balance, credit limit, your monthly payment, open date, and pay history. So we take what otherwise is kind of an ugly set of consumer credit data and create these highly engaging, attractive widgets, tiles for them to see. Beyond seeing their credit score, their credit report, the user has access to Credit Simulator. Credit Simulator is a DIY what-if scenario where I can come in and do these modeled actions. Like I'm going to model the action of reducing my balances by $20,000. And you can see here the TransUnion algorithm tells me that the action of reducing balances of $20,000, in this case, would take the score from 771 to 790, an increase of 19 points. I can run an infinite number of simulations. I can also do the inverse and say, I'm currently at a 771. I have a goal. I want to get to 805. So I set that as the new target. And again, using our integration with the TransUnion algorithm, we're going to bring back kind of the easiest and shortest items or tasks, if you will, that a consumer would take in order to increase that score. Let me do that one more time here. 805 is my target. It's going to come back and tell me in the easiest is over 20 months to do these things, or I can shorten it to 12 and even 6 months, and it becomes the hardest, but those are the most impactful actions. The roadmap for FinLocker includes leveraging AI and to provide better and more timely insights to a user who's setting a goal, setting a target with some very specific targeted actions that they can take. Okay, so that's our credit widget. By the way, that's a highly engaging widget. We see about 75 to 80% of all consumers that create an account in our FinLocker technology link to their credit. Next is that financial widget that I briefly showed you, where when I showed you the property value and how it feeds into this view of net worth. But if we go a layer deeper, you'll see where this user has linked several accounts: a cash management, a checking account, a credit card, a money market, another overdraft account, a savings account, even a mortgage account is linked in here. And so linking an account is very simple. We have an integration with Fiserv. We use Fiserv's all data widget. And so let's just say I had a mortgage that was serviced by Freedom Mortgage. I would type in my Freedom Mortgage website. and then log into my Freedom Mortgage account here, and then use through this integrated FiServe widget, that Freedom Mortgage account gets connected in the app. And then if we go back to look at our accounts, I know I don't have that Freedom Mortgage account in here, but you see here's a mortgage for $868,618 that's tied to, in this case, PNC Bank. So if I click into that widget, I can actually see the details, like here's payments applied in August, July, June, etc. Okay, let's go back to our widget. And once we've linked an account as a consumer, we have access to several personal finance tools. The first I'll show you is our budgets and goals tools. So here a user can create very specific spending budgets. Here's one for fast food. Here's one for HOA, or actually owning the home. So these spending budgets are linked to spending accounts, like a credit card account, like a checking account. I can also do the inverse and create savings goals tied to cash accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, etc. Here's a goal that's been created to save for the down payment on a home. You can see the red indicates that this user is behind and not on track to meet the 3 months that are left in this targeted savings goal. Setting up a new goal is easy. I'll just quickly open this. You can see the editor. You know, you can click, what do you save it, create a goal for retirement, emergency fund, credit card, and then you just answer a couple of quick questions. That goal gets created and you link it to one of your linked financial accounts. The other tool that's inside of the spending widget, or the financial accounts widget, is our spending widget, where I can see all my spending broken down by categories. I could see current month. I could see month over month over month. I could go back and look at a prior period. Here's May 2025. I could filter down to specific categories. Like, let's say I just want to see my food and dining. What was my food and dining in May? So I click food and dining. It just now sorted all of my spending by food and dining. And so now I have an at a glance for what my food and dining was, which may help me to better prepare a budget for reducing my spending. Okay, I'm moving fast here. We already went into our property value widget. Below the widget there, this is where we present the loan officer. So in the case of a loan purchase use case, or a retail purchase use case, a loan officer could be the representative inside the app for the consumer. And you notice here we also support the co-nurturing, coexistence, co-branding for a loan officer with an agent. In a servicing use case, this could be a single point of contact. It could be somebody in customer service. It could be an inside salesperson, loan officer who supports the servicing retention use case. But it's a good idea to have a point of contact for the consumer to have instant outreach. And you can see we've got these calls to action, including linking right to the point of sale to start the loan application. A quick open, this would open an email thread. And finally, for the individual LO, a link to their calendar to set up an appointment. Similar calls to action. We don't have obviously the loan, starting a loan application for a realtor, but a quick connect to connect with a realtor in here. Okay, let's go back up and look at our next widget, which is our embedded real estate search experience. I mentioned in the home valuation widget that our valuation comes through our integration with HomeGenius Real Estate, and so does our national search experience. You'll see here, I just opened up another browser. HomeGenius Real Estate is the platform that powers this search experience, in addition to your typical filters for search on school, zip code, beds and bath, price range, property type. With the HomeGenius platform, users can add, they have a cool other feature leveraging AI. So I can look at homes in my ideal, in my filter, my zip code, my price point, my school district. But let's just say for some reason, I'm interested in kitchens in needs of a remodel. So the AI in HomeGenius is going to look at all the images of the properties for sale inside my filter here, and then pull up first those properties that best match what I described, which is kitchens in need of remodel. And I think if you'd agree with me that these two at the very top definitely identify as kitchens in need of a remodel. And the user then can favorite properties. And so they start, when you favorite properties and search, just like you would on any search site, you start to, those properties are now tracked inside the app itself. And I'll show you that in a moment. while we're talking about the search experience, I think this is probably obvious and evident from a kind of client for life servicing, retention, recapture experience. But, if you think about the features I've showed you back on the dashboard, and we'll just do this real quick as we walk through, if you think about apps that consumers have access to that are free and that tend to be lead gen apps, Credit Karma, NerdWallet, Credit Sesame come to mind when I think about credit. Of course, there was Mint.com, but there's Rocket Money, there's Monarch Money, there's your bank. The bank has, personal finance apps. Those are all apps that consumers have access to for personal finance tools that become lead generators for those brands that they're getting pulled into. And the same could be said for property valuation. We all know Redfin, Realtor.com, and Zillow are places that consumers go to check values of properties, even homes for sale. Those are lead gen opportunities. If a lender, if a servicer, if an originator is able to provide all of these tools under their brand in a connected ecosystem, maybe, just maybe, we do a better job of keeping people in our ecosystem and away from those other lead gen apps, and we have a better chance at converting those consumers when it's time for them to transact. Okay, let me go back to our properties. I showed you search. I showed you how I favorited a property. And this is the property I favorited when we were in there. See, it was just updated on August 12th. And so now what happens is when I go into the readiness experience in a minute, you're going to see how the user can see where they are in terms of being ready for financing. This is where we take the output, the outcome of that readiness, and overlay it on favorited properties. We believe this is the first real intersection of search and financial readiness, not just a calculator that someone's calculating, plugging into on top of a listing here, but actually looking at real MLS listing data, this case, this property in New Orleans on Austerlitz Street, and then overlaying it in real time with the consumer's financial readiness, where it fits in their budget with an estimated payment. We have an integration today. We bring in an 30-year index rate from Optimal Blue. We can, through a custom integration, integrate to a lender, a servicer's product and pricing engine. So this could be much more dynamic and dialed in for the particular entity. We estimate property taxes through an API, mortgage insurance if the scenario that the consumer ran has less than 20% down payment, and home insurance as well. Users can be tracking multiple properties and then do a quick kind of scan and compare, if you will, on these properties, not just the price of the properties, but how it impacts their monthly payment and their budget. Okay, back to the dashboard, go to the top. I'm gonna show you one last feature, and then we'll go into the readiness. We've created what we call Buyer Vision. Buyer Vision is a tool that consolidates much of that consumer personal finance data, including their credit score in a 10-point range, a summary of their monthly debt from their liabilities on the credit report. We identify any mortgages, the range of balances and payments, and then we summarize the debt analysis, based on these various accounts. And then probably the most important thing is we identify any red flags. So if there were late payments in the last 24 months, if there were any derogatories in the past 10 years for this consumer through their consumer credit report, we would highlight those for the lender to see. And in this view, the consumer can actually share access to this in real time. And so here the consumer is consenting to share with their lender their financial readiness profile, which includes credit information and may contain personal information, including sensitive financial information. I further acknowledge that I've read and understand the privacy policy. This sharing, you'll note, is for educational purposes only and does not affect the consumer's credit score. And so when the consumer clicks that share, the lender now has real-time access to see exactly what the consumer sees in terms of their summary. And I mentioned when we, at the beginning of the demo, we had the beta, which was our income and employment integration, which is through our integration with Argyle. We are now developing, the team's working on bringing that data and exposing it through this Buyer Vision experience as well. Okay, let's go into our readiness now. So now I'm going to go into our mortgage readiness. Now that you understand the high-level widgets and tools that are in the app to engage consumers, and more importantly, the data that comes from the engagement in those specific widgets, that direct source credit, income, asset, employment data, We use all of that data combined with the consumer's stated goals and objectives, like their target purchase price, $295, their ideal down payment, they said 5%. I'll show you in a moment how we can play with these sliders. And so based on that, and based on this consumer wanting to be in a conservative payment range, they don't want to max out their approvability. Their affordability is 381, but for this particular property, this goal they have of buying a home less than 300, in this case 295, this is what their output would look like in terms of their estimated payment. And you'll see here we're measuring this consumer on these 4 dimensions: how much money they've saved, and it's verified from the linked bank accounts, their employment income, their credit score, we use 640 as a proxy for readiness, their monthly debt, we calculate DTI using 45 as a proxy for readiness. And this, the rules, if you will, behind this readiness would be customizable for an enterprise client here as well. So let's go back to our summary. I'll show you quickly. If I'm in here, and what's interesting, we see consumers come into this readiness experience after they've engaged with the app for a bit, and especially in someone that's in the process of planning to buy a new home, they come in here and they run this readiness assessment between 4 and 8 times each time they log in. And what we found is they're running this to kind of get to that sweet spot optimization. So let's just say somebody got in their ear and said, you should put down 20% to avoid personal, private mortgage insurance. So just sliding to 20% for down payment, it's going to recalculate this readiness. We're going to lose a star because we just now created a need for $59,000, but yet we only have $47,000 identified in a bank account. So we lost a star for assets, but you can see our payment went down significantly on that same purchase price, and our affordability went up because we lowered the down payment. We raised the down payment, which lowered the payment. Okay, this also, the user can tweak their payment preference. So maybe someone that's in a career path that's going to have an accelerated income, over the first 5 to 10 years, might be more comfortable pushing out to the 45 debt to income ratio. And so in this case, their affordability goes up to 745. So now, knowing that, maybe they change their target purchase price to like 450, something that is beyond their initial goal. And so we rerun this scenario. So I share this to highlight that we see consumers come in here and run this readiness multiple times, and then when they find something that they're kind of comfortable with, they save that scenario, and that becomes kind of the reset in the app for that scenario. Okay, guys, I try to keep this under 30 minutes. I covered a lot. I covered pretty much all of the experience. One thing I'll show you while I'm kind of closing shop here, we have this view of a homeownership budget that's more than just what it takes to budget for approvability, but really what it takes to budget for the total cost of homeownership. And this is phase 1 of how we're looking at a homeownership budget. We'll be adding to this, but you'll notice you have this language. We've got some language around saving money for other expenses. And so throughout the app, there's several CTAs, calls to action, that can lead to other funnels. And so for clients of ours that have other product services offerings, we can engage consumers and then have funnels that lead to these other products and services. Could be a home warranty, could be homeowners insurance, could be inspection services, could be you could have a portal that has all the local contractors that maybe a consumer, a homeowner should have at their fingertips. So a lot of customizable availability here for you. Hopefully this was helpful. If anyone wants more information, wants a personal one-on-one demo, please visit our website, finlocker.com. You can set up a personal demo with our team. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Brian Vieaux. I am the president and chief operating officer at FinLocker. You can email me, first name dot last name, BRIAN.Vieaux, V as in Victor, IEAUX @finlocker.com. Of course, you can also check me out on LinkedIn and DM me over there. But I hope you learned a lot about the FinLocker financial app, financial fitness and homeownership app. And again, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.